Hello, I'm Matt Ford and welcome to Unspun, the show that's trying to get the image of Jeremy Corbyn alone and naked out of its dreams at night. Let's see what's been happening over the past few days. It's come to light that a Conservative candidate in Lancashire was once investigated after claims he got a dog drunk on cocktails before fighting with the dog's owner in the street. Tory Mark Menzies told reporters he gave the dog sex on the beach and 2 slippery nipples, but he has no idea what they had to drink. Angela Merkel received a full minute of applause at a Munich beer hall when she said the EU could no longer depend on the US or the UK. Is it just me, or is there something a little unnerving about a German leader getting a rapturous reception for denouncing enemies in a beer hall? And police in Richmond have released a photograph of a couple they believe are responsible for a string of incidents where vulnerable pensioners have been conned into giving up their valuables. Police say they shouldn't be approached or voted for. Still to come on Unspun, we'll check in with our Asia correspondent Phil Wang, and later on I'll be joined by the former Lib Dem Cabinet Minister Chris Huhne. As always, I'm joined by some of my house band of politicians and guest musicians. They've got to hide their love away because they're married and seeking re-election. It's MP4. As you know, Kev, Greg and Pete are out there fighting the bad fight, so standing in for them tonight, we have, on drums, from Britpop legends Dodgy, we're delighted to have him back, it's Matthew Priest. Also making a second appearance on the show on guitar, from Maximo Park, it's Duncan Lloyd. On mouth organ, yet again, it's ex-Lib Dem MP, Lembit Opik. And on bass, the linchpin of MP4, ex-Labour MP and Unspun's very own Ian Causey. Fellas, welcome back. Pleased to have you all here. Ian, we heard there about the allegations about a Conservative candidate and what may or may not have happened with a dog. On the campaign trail, have you ever had any incidents with animals?
Well, I used to represent an area that had a lot of pig farmers, and I was working with them to improve animal welfare standards. In fact, Lembit once called me the porcine prince in Parliament. And so I'd often end up on a farm holding a pig, and every single time I did, they always pissed on me.
Yeah, but you got your own back when you fed him to Ed Miliband.
It's true.
It's true. Fellas, thank you very much. As we prepare to enter the last weekend of campaigning, we finally had the manifesto launch from the crazed nationalists up north. That's right. The Yorkshire Party have unveiled their plans for a Yorkshire Parliament. According to the plans, members would be divided into left and right and disciplined by a 3-line whippet. In unrelated separatist news, the SNP also launched their manifesto.
The Scottish National Party has launched its election manifesto, pledging to promote fairness and opportunity.
I am proud to present it to the Scottish people today.
In these divisive times, the SNP fearlessly defended the rights of the media. We remain committed to a vibrant, free press, and we will work with other parties in Scotland and at Westminster to ensure it is supported. So with journalists allowed to ask questions, let's see how that message was received by their members.
If you lose seats, does that weaken your case?
What? I was brought up... No.
Do you accept that you personally have become a more divisive person on the doorstep for voters?
Well, calm down. You're not in the Labour Party, UKIP. One subject was conspicuous by its almost absence. Nicola Sturgeon barely mentioned independence, which she achieved after 2 weeks of solid hypnotherapy. Eventually, she couldn't help herself and clarified when, during the Brexit process, a second independence referendum would be.
I've said at the end of the process, and I've said that for a reason, because it is important that people have clarity about Brexit and what that means.
So we'll have IndyRef 2 at the end of Brexit, which means Scotland could become independent as early as 2059. Jeremy Corbyn has had an amazing week. According to a YouGov poll out this morning, the Theresa May party may lose seats and end up in a hung parliament. On top of that, just hours ago, he sensationally decided to take part in tonight's BBC debate. On Monday, he outperformed expectations at the TV debate that wasn't a debate. He was so confident that body language experts believe he may have been sneaking in subtle, physical messages for Theresa May.
To me, leadership is as much about using this as using this.
Yeah, you've got to turn the other cheek. On a roll, he popped into Woman's Hour to announce a new childcare policy.
Let me understand then, how much will it cost to provide unmeans-tested childcare for 1.3 million children?
It will cost... It will obviously cost a lot to do so. We accept that.
I presume you have the figures?
Yes, I do. What are we?
You're logging into your iPad here. You've announced a major policy and you don't know how much it will cost?
All our...
You don't know the figure?
All of our manifesto is fully costed and examined. And,
but you're holding a manifesto, you're flicking through it, you've got an iPad there, you've had a phone call while we're in here, and you don't know how much it's going to cost.
Can we come back to that in a moment?
It's like an anxiety dream. Later that day, he ended up naked on a bus. I thought his first answer was quite good. It'll obviously cost a lot. Genius, it's true and unspecific. Yeah, we've done the figures and it'd be a lot, like loads, possibly even a shitload. Incredibly, this wasn't the worst interview of the last 48 hours. Boris Johnson has been hidden away during this campaign, perhaps because the two words that don't spring to mind when you see him are strong and stable, as he proved when he turned Sky News into a pub row.
The British people have voted to come out. Are you saying you're going to stay in the single market?
I agree.
Are you going to stay in the single market?
I agree.
Is that what, you're out of the single market, are you?
Yes. Yes.
Out of the customs union?
Boris,
are you?
You know what
Are
our
you?
position is.
No, I don't think you know what your position
I
is.
voted to trigger Article 50.
I don't think you know what your position is.
I only came in for a pint of mild, mate. This gets so bad that Adam Bolton has to physically intervene, and for a moment, it looks like Boris Johnson is actually going to punch him.
Are you going to bring immigration down?
No,
Yes,
I'm asking you a question.
Right, who's this? I'll give you a bloody fist sandwich as well, you middling mugwump. Boris finished by shouting at the whole pub.
I can't get an answer. Don't send Jeremy Corbyn to negotiate for us. They don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Thank you very
don't have
much
a
indeed.
clue. You don't
Boris,
have a clue about
calm
immigration.
Yeah, I'll take you all on. Nobody tells me what to do and gets away with it, apart from Michael Gove. The President of the United States caused more confusion in the early hours of this morning with a tweet that actually made more sense than his usual ramblings. Let's go live to the White House for the latest.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back in America. I had a lovely holiday with the G7 in Europe. It's a beautiful country. I got a lot of heat over my position on climate change. It's ironic. But it's a sad day, folks, so sad. Manuel Noriega, the former dictator of Panorama, has passed away. He was a great leader and a great documentary maker. I really wanted to meet him, you know. He knew how to stay in power without re-election. That's real leadership. My communications director, Mike Dubkey, you might have heard of him. He's resigned, which I just found out about, so bad communication, Mike. Real bad. You can't have a communications director not communicating. I'm gonna fire him. And now I got more allegations from the media and their biased coverage. The biased Kafifi. So bad what they're doing to me. Allegations, by the way, that my son-in-law, Jared, you heard of him? Tried to set up secret communications with the Russians. I want to speak to someone privately. I always open up back channels. If Putin wanted me to open up, I'd be using my back channels. It's important for me to have my back channels open at all times. All he'd have to do was ask. I gladly ease a passage. I'd bend over backwards and open up my back channels. I do that for my country. Thank you so much. Good night.
I've always said that if I could have one superpower, it'd be China. Tensions between China and the US were raised last week when two Chinese jets intercepted a US surveillance plane over the South China Sea. The Americans apologised for the incident, saying they were meant to be going to New York, but had accidentally logged into the British Airways booking system. To bring us the latest, there's the reporter we'll never give the chop. Sticks it to the man every week. It's our Asia correspondent, Phil Wang.
Thank you, man. Are Asia the only thing that's had more yoga instructors in it than your girlfriend? I'm Phil Wang, and this is Asia News. That's right, Matt. Chinese military jets stopped a US surveillance plane, upsetting President Donald Trump, who will now have to find another way to look down Asian girls' tops. According to US officials, the fighter jets came to within 200 yards of the American aircraft before demanding all Americans start using proper units of measurement, please. The Pentagon condemned the interception as unsafe and unprofessional before leaving China a 2-star review on TripAdvisor. Police in Tokyo are cracking down on cosplay fancy dress Mario Kart tours after concerns were raised about their safety. Drivers stand accused of throwing turtle shells at one another, spinning around on the spot, and taking mushrooms. Insuring a Mario Kart is expensive, but it is possible to break even if you collect enough coins off the road. The Mario Kart cosplayers are under heavy scrutiny, with 12 accidents reported in the last 2 months, though it is unkind of the parents to call them that. The Australian company Ansell has sold its condom division to a Chinese consortium for a reported £462 million, almost as much as I spend on condoms in a year. An Ansell spokesman explained the company's decision to get rid of their condom department, saying, "It just doesn't feel natural, baby. Come on. Let's lose it. Come on." China's condom market is expected to grow by 12% a year, following a recent upsurge in sexual activity among the Chinese. Not surprising for a country with so many wangs and hoes in it. I'm Phil Wang for Unspun. 是我, Wang Yo.
Irish correspondent Phil Wang. I'll be back after the break when I'll be joined by one of the most notorious politicians of his generation. We have a rare interview with one of the few cabinet ministers to have served time in prison, Chris Huhne. Welcome back to Unspun. Now it's time for my special guest. Known as one of the brightest minds in the Liberal Democrats, he challenged Nick Clegg for the leadership of the party before serving in cabinet in the coalition government. In March 2013, he was found guilty of perverting the course of justice when he got his then-wife to take points for his speeding. It's Chris Huhne. I was the passenger, and the ride never drive. I ride through the city back streets. You know it looks so good tonight. Chris, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
We're very lucky to have you here. You do very few media interviews these days, so we're very...
Well, I do quite a lot on things like climate change and energy, but not general ones, yeah.
But in the middle of an election campaign, it's fascinating to get your thoughts. This is an election where people thought the Lib Dems would really break through, make that pitch for the 48% in the wake of the referendum result. Why don't you think the Lib Dems are cutting through at the moment?
Well, there's been some polling evidence on it which suggests that, you know, the 48%, perhaps about half, are people who are basically saying, well, the decision's been made, we need to move on, do the best we can out of Brexit, and that's it. So the pool that the party is fishing in, I think, is a good deal smaller than was originally thought when the party set out on that strategy.
It's always fascinating talking to people who've been at the centre of it and then find themselves outside of it, especially when they're still young enough and talented enough to perhaps go back in. Do you look at the fortunes of the party now and think, I should be leading them?
I'm delighted you say that. I'm 63, so I don't know.
No way!
But, yeah, well, there we are. Yeah, and no, I think that the extraordinary thing about this, I mean, I do feel, in the middle of an election campaign, that it's a very important election. And I think that there's a massive problem, because the reason this election has been called early is precisely because if it was called in a year's time, the Tories know that a lot more information would be out there which would be affecting people's votes. And that information is so far only just coming through. We've had a big fall in the pound. That is coming through in terms of rising prices. That's hitting living standards. And we've only had 1 month where prices have actually gone higher than earnings now. But in a year's time, boy.
It seems that all parties have leadership issues in this election, that none of them really have a leader that is what the public would like to be the leader of that particular party. Do you think that Tim Farron is the right man to lead the Lib Dems? And after the election, regardless of the results, it looks like it'd be bad, who do you think would be better to lead?
Well, I don't think I would have done anything different to Tim in terms of the strategy. I think it was a sensible thing, given the information that was available.
It's not a sin.
I think there is a problem that the electoral strategy for the party is posited on particularly making progress in urban areas with urban liberals who are very enlightened, socially liberal, and the leader is embarrassed about issues that a social liberal should not be embarrassed about, gay rights, gay marriage, and so forth. And that is an issue. And to the extent that people have a very short attention span in politics, they're not really interested in all that political policy detail, but they look at the leader encapsulating the values of the party, and that can potentially be a problem, actually, for all of the parties. I mean, Theresa May, you know, you're running a personality cult without a personality. Jeremy Corbyn, well, where do you start? But, I mean, maybe a maths class would be a good idea. So, you know, everybody has their issues, and I won't intrude on other... Well, I just did.
You're someone who's had a unique personal experience in not only being at the heart of Cabinet, but then really living life from one extreme to the other, being at the height of power and then finding yourself in the prison system. There's so many questions I want to ask you about that time in your life.
Well, that's all right.
Firstly, what was worse, the trial or the time inside?
No, the trial wasn't bad at all because I pleaded guilty. So you've got to remember, you said you know, that I was found guilty. I wasn't found guilty, I pleaded guilty. So I didn't have to go through a trial. Sorry, researcher, I didn't know that one.
What's the first night in prison like?
Well, the first night in prison I particularly remember was Wandsworth, and Wandsworth was is an old 19th century jail and is extremely spooky. And in fact, one of the things that happened that night was that somebody had clearly completely lost it and woke the whole jail up, or at least my bit of it, because they were screaming blue murder. And I think that you know, it's a very overcrowded jail, a lot of other problems. So the reality is that it's not a place you would want to take a sabbatical in, put it that way.
No. No, I didn't imagine it was... I presumed it would be a negative experience, but I wondered, how did the world of politics treat you? Did many politicians visit you when you were inside?
Yeah, some more wanted to visit than was actually, because you're limited to the amount of time and space. So yes, I did get some visits, but actually, given family and friends from way back, that was, you know, a more pressing list of engagements. There were some people who would have liked to visit who, you know, were suddenly taken over by evangelical desire to convert me to the ways. And, you know, on balance, they didn't get that high up the list. But apart from that, you know.
Because I remember at the time Lembit Opik saying that he would visit you.
Lembit didn't come, Lembit, I'm really sorry.
Oh.
If you'd said you were going to play the mouth organ, you know, I might have... Actually, I would have definitely said no. I just asked when I came on, how much do these guys pay you for being on the show?
I don't know.
That's the passing.
Unfair.
The expenses are brilliant, mate.
I mean, when you see Lembit's Crimes Against Music, does it rankle that you spent time inside and this man walks free?
Absolutely.
But I'm sure it was, in a way, quite a phenomenal experience and rare, especially for a politician. But I wonder, what do you think is worse, spending time in prison or leading the Liberal Democrats?
Oh, without doubt, after this campaign, leading the Liberal Democrats. No, I mean, you know, I can't make fun about being in prison. It's not fun, it's not a great experience at all. But equally, I've never actually wanted to go on and on about it because I spent 2 months in prison, which is in the great span of some of the people who I came across who've been locked up, for example, on sentences of indeterminate length because they were regarded for one reason or another as a threat. They've just been in there forever. You know, frankly, it was prison tourism by comparison with some of the people I met in there. So.
I suppose in a weird way, at like dinner parties, you can wear it as a bit of a sort of badge of honour, like you're the tough guy.
Well, I certainly did. I certainly did get a wave of invitations immediately after getting out from a certain type of London hostess who, you know, clearly thought this was a bit of rough trade.
Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Huhne. That's all we've got time for tonight. We'll be back on Sunday, but now to play us out. They fly like Angela Eagle. It's MP4.
One way or another, they're gonna catch you. They're gonna catch you one way or another. They wanna win you. They're gonna beat you. One way or another, they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you one way. Maybe next week they're gonna catch you. They're gonna catch you. Watch them play to their fans. Falling up messages banned till felled by Paxman.